there any additions or changes?
None for me.
None for me.
You're good? Okay. Next, do we have any public comments?
You want to make a motion and adopt the,
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
I'll move that we adopt the agenda.
Thank you for that reminder.
I'll second that motion.
And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Marcy, you do have two public comments, Marcy.
Good morning, Marcy.
Good morning. Chair Schwalway.
Marlene is fine.
Okay.
It's so much easier.
So I am here to talk about communication still as we continue to talk about best ways to do it, most fair ways to do it, the most open ways to do it. And as I was sort of reflecting on our last meeting, it occurred to me that it's possible that the way that the union interacts with its council, in other words, our local attorney, we work with Shane Utes at Utes and Valdez. The union needs to be able to decide when council is involved and when it isn't. And there has been a question about communication on more than one occasion flowing through to me as the union president in an equal way as it would flow to the president of the college or whoever they're kind of thinking of as their principal. And it was explained to me by a couple different people that in order to speak with me, we had to go through counsel for ethical reasons, and that's perfectly fine with me.
I'm sorry, may I interrupt? Forgive me. Could you explain your last statement in order for who to speak with you?
Yeah,
Who
so
needed to go through counsel?
yeah, sorry. To be more specific, if a document like, say, the rules that we were discussing last time, flows from counsel here, like Mr. Kennedy, to Shane, our attorney, and maybe it also flows, I don't know, from counsel to the college's counsel to counsel. We want to be able to see whatever it is kind of on an immediate basis. And my understanding is, and I'm not an attorney, so, is that if I want to talk to, let's see, how do I say this? It sounded like I didn't get the rules because I wasn't the attorney, and there was some kind of an ethical attorney obligation there that needed to be followed. Does that make sense? I know Justin's an attorney, perhaps. You can explain what I'm trying to explain in a better way.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Before we comment,
yeah.
are we expecting our attorney to attend this morning?
And it would be any attorney, by the way.
okay.
It could be like, college's counsel as well. Like, and for documents like hearing notices or, decisions or those kinds of things, I just want to be in the loop. And my suggestion, thinking back on all of this, because there was this exchange between Kennedy and myself about whether or not I had received the rules. I don't know if you guys remember that. I think that it would be more appropriate if I were CC'd. We can always keep the councils involved, but I would like to see the information so that the union can make a determination about whether they want to handle the information internally, if they think they need help with counsel, et cetera. I just think that we get to determine whether or not we want to utilize counsel's services or not.
Okay, since, Marcy, thank you for your comment. And since this is a public comment and not an agenda item, I think that our suggestion would be that we refrain from discussion at this time.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Please.
Yeah, I don't know that we necessarily need to refrain from discussion. We can't take any action. Because I share, to a certain degree, Marcy's concern. I don't, and this is why I kind of wish the attorneys were here, because I don't understand why it needs to flow through the attorneys anyway. We are the board. You are a representative. Our, information flow from us, I would think, ought to be direct. I don't understand, I don't know that any of this is privileged per se. It's all in an open public meeting, why it has to flow. And, there may be some formal protocol that attorney to attorney dialogue, but that does not preclude our direct communication with you as the representative of the union.
That would be our position.
That's my view of it. Now, whether or not, again, not being an attorney and not being fully versed in this arena, I'd be interested in Mr. Kennedy's perspective.
Yeah, can I follow up with that?
Please.
I agree with you. I think part of this issue probably is addressed in the next agenda item in terms of communication generally. I think the issue you're bringing up, Marcy, came up in the context where we don't have a website up, we don't have an email system up, we don't have a way to publicly disseminate the rules, the draft rules, what's coming up. And so because of that, the only way for someone like Marcy to find out what was happening was to, and appropriately so, to get it from Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, as an attorney, if he knows that Marcy is represented by an attorney, he can't go directly to Marcy. He has to go to her attorney. And I don't know the answer to, can Mr. Kennedy send an email to Shane and copy you? In my world, I wouldn't do that either. I would be relying upon Shane to relay whatever I said to Shane if I were the lawyer. I think some of this, or maybe all of this, is addressed by getting the website up, coming up with a better way to publicly disseminate information. But that said, the union, your comment about the union being able to decide what it wants to use counsel for and what it doesn't is totally valid, and we have to respect that, not only for you but for anyone who wants to come before the board. There has to be the university, the school has counsel here, and they're entitled to that too, and the school can also decide what it wants to use counsel for and not. So I do think we'll take it up with this agenda item. I don't think we're making any decision or taking any action, but I think your comment is good because we're in getting the startup. I think the communication has been a little bit challenging, so that makes sense to me.
And that would be one level, is like stuff that flows from council to council. And of course, I don't want to breach any ethical anythings, but we also do want, the opportunity to make decisions for ourselves about whether we want.
Right.
And there's kind of a second thing, which I bet will come up, but I was just going to say in my public comment that it might be good if, I just wonder, I don't know where we are for sure with the website. I was on there. I see that we can put a concern on there, and I'm assuming that it's coming to you guys if someone were to fill something out. Last week I was going to try to email the three of you about this issue, and it wasn't yet working, so I just was gonna, and that was a while ago, so it's possible that that's been fixed since then. But so any kind of and then other stuff that's just would be open, like open to everybody, like a hearing notice or a meeting notice or that kind of thing. I reckon I just want to be able to have access to meetings and notices like that at the same time. I don't know if, certainly community members would want to know maybe when things like that are, but definitely as the president of this union, I want to know. And so if there's a way that, that, you know, we can, I think that it's just going to get posted on,
Published in the New Mexican 10 days before the meeting, and that's exactly the same sort of posting that I do for the governing board. And then it was on the webpage, the announcement of the meeting. It's been on the boards, the announcement, the media boards around the campus. It's posted in the normal places that I post again for the governing board meetings. It's posted exactly in the same places and exactly at the same time. So,
great, thanks. And then, of course, for some things that might not be like a regular board meeting, I just like something that comes up like a hearing or, I don't know.
That should be covered in the rules,
Okay, so,
the notification requirements. I'd like to editorialize, if I may, for a moment. I think we need to keep sight of the purpose of labor relations in general, labor management relations. And the purpose is to encourage communication between the parties. And what I'm hearing, part of the underlying concern that I don't think I'm projecting, I think this is what I'm hearing from you, and please let me check this out, is there a point at which the engagement of attorneys that are retained by all parties might impact the ability of the parties to communicate directly? Would that be accurate?
yes.
I think that there's an important discussion there.
I would agree.
And maybe as the president of one of the parties, you can give some thought to how this board might help to facilitate such a discussion.
We'd be really interested in exploring that with you. So, I mean, I would just say that.
And since we can't take any action
Right.
today, then we won't. But perhaps that could be something for your consideration for a future agenda item.
We would welcome that discussion. That would be our position.
Colleagues?
You know, if I may, I guess I'm just a little, I'm trying to get my head around this a little bit, just from the standpoint that, you know, and I tend to evaluate some of these things in the context of my own experience. And my most recent experience with this was with the city of Albuquerque, where we had 7 bargaining units, 5 AFSCME, APOA, fire. Everybody had attorneys. City had attorneys, unions had attorneys. The AFSCME units had Shane Utes and his minions. And that never interfered with my ability to talk to the union presidents. I mean, I routinely, and they routinely, if we had something to talk about, pick up the phone and you talk, or you show up at the office and you talk. I'm not, I understand as we're kind of feeling our way through this process that there's some confusion and so forth, but I for one would not want to see anything in relationship to how the board operates or in terms of how the attorneys operate that inhibit the communication, to Marlene's point. You know, facilitating labor management dialogue is part of what our role is, and certainly I wouldn't want to see anything interfere with that.
Thanks. Yeah.
Justin, anything to add? I think in my experience as well, there's a range of responses that can range from what Vince just described to
communicated.
So many of those objectives typically addressed in a collective bargaining agreement.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
In fact, incorporated in the working ones in the very beginning. I'm sure that you can perceive some concern about use of the word interfering.
I wouldn't, I don't know, interfering.
It hasn't crossed your mind about that. So is there any issues that you want to be addressed because there are reasons to do that?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service to our community and our college. Chair Marlene, members of the board. My name is Zuby Wilson. I'm the chair of the Faculty Senate here at the college. And very related to Marcy's comments, and I've been having some conversations on campus about this. Since we filed our union papers, there's been a consistent pattern of the administration, the board feeling unable to have conversations with the Senate. And it's very important in our shared governance process. We need to have those kinds of conversations, and it has been previously, and a lot of that comes from the emails I'm getting that college legal doesn't think the president should come to one of our meetings, or that the chair of the board is getting advice from legal that she cannot speak with the chair of the faculty senate. And it's really, it's interfering with our ability to do effective shared governance. What I'm asking for is not, I'm not asking for, the past is the past. We have a new president this week. I think there's a lot of opportunity. Where I would ask the board is there a possibility that the Senate, the board, the administration, the union, and any other constituencies on campus that would like to participate be given some guidance from the board as to what is permitted and what is not permitted communication? What kind of things would get us into trouble, and how can we avoid that while still having effective communication, open dialogue on campus? And I'm not sure, I know that the board has the role of arbiter of disputes, but if we could find out some suggestions of how we can communicate without the danger. And my sense has been that the union and the Senate are both very interested in keeping every dispute at the lowest possible level and resolving it in just active conversation. And that is, we'd like to get guidance from the board or advice, or maybe a forum to have a conversation about concerns where we could address some of those issues and just really open up the dialogue.
Colleagues?
Well, we have a balancing act here, and I'll defer to my colleagues to agree or disagree with me, in that I'm, for one, reluctant to give advice, and only because ultimately we are the ones that have to decide if one party or the other violated the resolution and so forth. And so if one of the parties acts on our advice or on their interpretation of our advice, and then that results in a complaint from the other party, then where are we? I think we need to walk a fine line here in terms of how much, quote unquote, advice we can give. There are, now that said, there are tenets within the goals and objectives that Marcy and yourself have articulated, the idea of resolving issues at the lowest possible level. That's labor management relations 101. You try to do that. I could only speculate that part of the, just like with the establishment of the board and the issues of communication with the board early on, and as we kind of build our institution with the website and all this sort of stuff, we start to smooth those things out. Frankly, I suspect some of the same dynamics are at play in terms of the unions and the faculty senate's interactions with the administration, given this new framework, right, that business needs to be conducted under. That's why the one thing I am not shy about advising is get to work on a collective bargaining agreement. That is what is going to provide the framework for all this, I think, or should. And will, I think, answer a lot of these issues going forward. But until that happens, there's a lot of ambiguity. And again, Justin and Marlene, I'd be interested in your perspective, but but principally going back to your point about advice, that's where I have some real reservations on the role of the board.
I agree that we need to take care, and this is a conversation that, frankly, we would need to have with our council about our role in providing the guidance that you're requesting. I think what we can safely say is that it is a typical conundrum in an institute of higher education that has a collective bargaining unit to be clear about the scope of the union and the scope of the faculty senate. And I think that's something that you can work on and dialogue about and clarify. The scope of a bargaining unit is to address all terms and conditions of employment, and only the bargaining unit can do that. Not just at this community college, but that's what a bargaining unit does. That's what a collective bargaining agent does. Outside of that, there's a lot of room for discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would just add, I know it may not be a satisfying answer. I think our role is a bit like an umpire calling balls and strikes, and so we have a charter and a set of rules we abide by, that we can make rulings on disputes that are listed in the rules that we have to make rulings on. I think that until you get to a point where there's an impasse that requires board resolution and is within our ambit to decide, we're a little bit powerless. Although what I would encourage is what Vince and Marlene said is get organized, get the agreements together, and if there's places where there are impasses happening that don't rise to the impasses that we're required to call balls and strikes on, we'll get an agenda item, and we can talk about that, and our council will be here and tell us if we're going out of bounds. We do need to know, because we want this whole thing to work properly. We're just kind of limited in what Vince said is exactly right. We're limited in advice, but we're not limited in telling you either balls and strikes or encouraging everyone collectively, get together, talk, work this out, and get to a point where there's something for us to decide. I think that's probably, your comment is totally valid. We're really appreciative that you're raising it, because we don't really know what's going on until we hear from you. So that's very helpful. Yeah.
And I understand. I mean, obviously, I can't go to a judge and ask him to give advice. It's like, well, come in here and bring a case that I have jurisdiction over, right? But so I understand your position on that. But anything you can do to help let people know that communication is positive and valued and will help us get to where we want to be would be helpful.
It is not unheard of for a collective bargaining agreement to include language that does clarify the scope of a faculty senate.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zuby. Any other public comments? Okay, are we ready to move on then to item 4A? Information item, which discussion of the Labor Management Relations Board page on the website and other channels of communication. Ready? I think it's fabulous.
I do too.
I think you guys just did such a good job. Everything is clear and accessible. I'm going to get it on my computer. Do you have it on yours, Justin?
I can get it.
Okay. So one question. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Coming.
In my enthusiasm, I didn't even notice that you walked over.
I just
Okay.
wanted to respond to some concerns about communications, especially for notification of the meetings. We also sent that out on social media, but as the marketing department, we certainly welcome any suggestions on how we can do a better job. It's something we always struggle with, regardless of the topic, keeping everyone informed. So if there are suggestions, please send them our way.
Okay.
So if you'll
I can't
scroll
get-
to the top.
I can't get Wi-Fi on.
I grabbed some language from the original resolution from July 2005, just so that people could kind of understand what this is if they're new to it. But again, if you have other suggestions about copy, please just send it my way.
Yeah, I know that the language is from the resolution. I wonder if in this context, though, it might be, at least the first sentence might be a little bit misleading. The Santa Fe Community College Labor Management Relations Board handles petitions for representation of individual bargaining. Thank you, that's better. Units and prohibited practice complaints in the employment relationship between employees and the college. So there are a lot of employees who aren't represented by the bargaining unit, and we don't have the authority to hear a complaint from an employee who's not part of the bargaining unit, unless there's something that, conceivably there could be something that could be a prohibited practice that could be brought by somebody else. But that language,
Well, if I may, I think what that language deals with, in addition to dealing with labor organizations, I think the general reference to employees is that as labor organizations are being formed and recognized, technically they're still employees that are cooperating for concerted activity. So I understand what you're saying, Marlene, because it does imply that we could hear individual concerns, but I also kind of get where I think the language is originally coming from. It is employees who ultimately petition for representation, and then it is the employees and/or labor organizations that can file prohibited practices. So,
Yeah, so it's either certain employees or employees within the bargaining unit is probably to be more accurate, because I see what you're saying, for sure.
yeah.
We could
But again, Justin, until the bargaining unit is formed and recognized by us,
Yes.
they're still just employee. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
but I think the evolution of that language, we've evolved since paragraph 2. There is a bargaining unit. Certainly there could be more bargaining
Exactly.
units.
How about if we just took the first sentence out? The purpose of the board is. Just go to the second paragraph.
I'm good with that.
I'm fine with that, too.
And it might, just to, as long as I'm on a roll here, it might be worth, where we say Santa Fe Community College Resolution, July 2005, somehow to indicate that is an excerpt, that is not the entire
Thank you, yeah.
resolution, because the resolution is linked down further in the page. So if somebody wants to see it, they can see the whole thing.
Okay, we're in agreement to do those two things, eliminate the first sentence and to indicate that this is an excerpt from the resolution. Can do?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, shall we move on to the page?
you don't mind, Marshall, will you click on the board members and officers? Click.
There you go.
Thank you for, I gave you a, who knows how many word bio. Thank you for excerpting that.
Of course, you're
Quite
welcome, Madam Chair.
clearly. Appreciate that. And the photograph conundrum, the photograph glitch was, yeah.
Yes, please.
Ta-da.
I have to say, how unusual is it that the three of us are from Pennsylvania?
Well, I have to say, I'm originally from New Jersey. So.
Yay, me too.
But I have to confess to some discomfort being a Penn State guy surrounded by Temple people.
Such is life.
Well, we beat you, so that's all right.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of have an edge.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. And we're okay under meeting dates, moving ahead. Second Friday of the month, as needed, we're all good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. Meeting agenda, we talked about the meeting minutes being posted after they've been approved, so that's why we're seeing
And if
today's
I
agenda.
may ask, Marlene, you raised kind of a good point, going back to the dates of the meeting, regular, second Friday of the month, you said customarily,
As needed.
as needed. But it could be something other than that, right? Do we all interpret it the same way?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Okay. Thank you.
Pardon me, Madam Chair, are you hoping to say or as needed? Or, because my understanding from the last meeting was that you wouldn't necessarily meet every month?
Right.
And that's what I was trying to capture, but are you also saying that you could meet as needed, or?
Yeah, I guess,
or as needed be.
Oh, go ahead, Vince.
no, I was just kind of, and again, I'm kind of thinking out loud here, and that is that right now, second Friday of the month, I think seems great. That said, we could get to March or April, and then in a given month, one or more of us could have an issue with the second Friday and maybe need to make it the third Friday or Tuesday or something. I just want to be sure we're not precluded from that kind of change by the language in the posting.
So customarily would perhaps cover that
That's
concern?
kind of what I thought, yeah. Customarily is,
What if we added or as needed to the as needed? Would that help to give us more flexibility? I think it's there, but if the word or would add to that, then,
well, I think that what the point was is that the as-needed means that in a given month, we may not need to meet on the second Friday of the month.
or that we could meet on a different day, or that we could meet more frequently.
Yeah, and
So that's all covered to your satisfaction.
I think so.
Okay.
I have a suggestion after we get through this about letting folks know more immediately what's happening, but I think that language would give the reader,
You're good with it?
yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Then I am.
Okay. Meeting agendas, we saw that. Is there any reason to have previous meeting agendas?
No, because you got the minutes,
Yeah.
I would think.
I think, I don't think there's a need to have past agendas. I do think, since we're probably going to be building a lot of material that's going to end up on here over time, maybe we want like an archive link, and that's where past agenda items go. That's where maybe videos go after the first couple that are up there. So there's a place to go for historical stuff if you're looking for it, but it's not cluttering the main page. You know, if I was going on this site and looking for the very first meeting, but it's next year, I don't want it to be on the main page because we're going to have, 12 videos up by then. Maybe just an archive link with a separate page that has all the other stuff that you move that stuff into the archives over time.
Certainly, no problem. We can create that. Would you want us to move it to archives after 3 months, 6 months?
I'd say 6. I think 3 might be too soon.
6 is good.
6 is fine, yeah.
Okay. So next,
Would you like us to click on the videos, just so, no problem?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
Back to the main page, please.
I want to see what comes up next to the videos.
It's
What
Bruce
else seems
Springsteen.
relevant, I'm not sure. Maybe something interesting will pop
So
up.
if you don't mind clicking on board rules.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. Go back. And then the resolution is the original resolution, a scan of it, actually, from way back when. And that's where I tried to grab some language. We can go back to the main page now. And then it was my understanding we have several ways to reach out to the Labor Management Relations Board. However, I did not understand that you wanted your individual contact on there. And my understanding was that communications would go through Donna Wells. So if that's incorrect, please let me know and we'll change the website.
My understanding is that it would go through Donna. What's yours?
Where it says submit question or concern, okay, when I clicked on that, I could see where you fill in your name and statement of the concern. Where does it go from there?
It goes to Donna Wells.
It goes to Donna. And then Donna would forward that to us, I assume? Okay.
I sent a test. Did you get my test? Okay.
So we did have a discussion about that method of communication rather than going to each of us individually. Do we need to revisit?
No?
Is it, the way this will work, Donna's going to get an email and then she just forwards it to us? Is there some reason why we want to clutter Donna's email? Why would we not want this just to go to the three of us collectively? And then we have to decide, is it an agenda item? Is it something we have to?
There is, Laura, that email that you created that goes to the three of them.
Is that working? I think there's some challenges with having
There
an
is.
individual email go to 3 different people. I think our information technology office is
They're
working
still
to
working
resolve
on
that.
it. Yeah, and the problem was that when it comes to you, and if you respond, it's going to have your individual personal email on it. And that's what we were trying to avoid, was that personal identifiable,
Right.
contact we were trying to get rid of that, and so we hadn't come up with a solution of that yet, and he was in a training this week, so we were not able to solve that, but Laura has created the that goes to all three of you, the web address or email address that goes to all three of you. That is in the works. It's just that would come directly to you. It's just if you respond, they're going to see your personal email. So
let me understand this. So in addition to a concern, somebody filling out
Yes,
the form, that
yes.
going to you,
that's going to me. The other one, it does not come to me at all. It goes directly to you. I don't see those emails. The only hiccup we have so far is that if you respond to the person, they then see on your response your personal email address.
so does it have to be either or? Does it have to be
Well, that's
either it
what we're
goes to
trying
you or it comes to the three of us? Is that,
Well,
what am I'm missing something?
where else would it go? I mean, that's the only thing
Right.
is that if they do the thing online, that comes to me and I forward it to you. The other comes directly to you. It doesn't go through me. I don't see it. I'm not one of the emails CC'd on it. It only goes to the three of you. But the caveat is that if you do respond, what I was going to ask him is if there could be some sort of automatic answer that the person who sends you an email gets, that this has been received by the Labor Management Relations Board and is under consideration, and we, either we'll put it as an agenda item or we will be in contact with you. I don't know. Like an automatic response kind of thing. I was wondering if he could set it up where instead of you guys having to individually respond, there's some sort of automatic response so the person is aware that it's been received.
Is there a place on the current website that triggers that direct email right now? Or
We haven't, I think we might have put it up to test it, but
You put
it's
it up
not
to test it, but
quite
it's been
working,
taken off
so I
since
took
there
it
were
off.
problems.
So there would be an additional bullet under contact.
Yes.
Submit a question, concern online. Submit a question or concern directly to the labor board, something like that, right? With a link that would then have a similar form. It would just go to the three of us. So an employee or the union president or an administrator would be able to choose whether they want to submit online or submit directly to us.
Madam Chair, with one clarification, the LMRB email would not go to a form, it would go directly to the three of you. So
Just be an email,
they don't have to, yeah,
an email address that would,
exactly.
why do we
somebody would
want
send.
both? I mean, is there, it's going to say submit a question, concern online, and then contact the board, I guess, two different
I
links?
guess it would be an alternative. Maybe there would be a circumstance under which an individual submitting a concern would not want it routed through anybody at the college.
But it's
for
not
whatever
through
reason.
anybody. It would be directly to, once they get this fixed, it would be directly to us and not through Donna.
That's not what I'm understanding then. That's where I'm
The-
missing something.
Right now, the way it's set up is you click on that, you get the online form.
Right.
And that online form goes to Donna, and Donna forwards it to us. And one of the reasons why that would be is that if we were to reply all,
Well,
we don't reply to the person, we're replying among ourselves. But if there's a second link that says contact the board, you click on it and it gives you an email.
right.
And it says, board at SFCC, and the three of us get it. It's like a direct email. And we could actually, if we replied, we would end up replying to the person who sent the email
And it would also have your personal email address
on the reply.
on the reply.
Yeah.
And,
Because
and
you are not in our email system. That is why we can't control that part of it.
And I, for one, like the idea of the auto reply, that it basically acknowledges receipt, and that, we'll, I forget what the language that was suggested was, but that we would consider whether to put it on the agenda or not. And that's it. Because I don't think we want to be responding to issues outside of the public meeting. So,
That's what would get us in trouble.
exactly. So now we go to the whole question, which is what we can do with this form, if I understand it correctly, once we work out the details of that. That we could have this form not go through Donna, but go directly to us with an auto reply to the submitter. Is that correct?
I'll have to, that wasn't my understanding. I'll have to request that from our IT office. Our understanding was the email could do that. I don't know about this. Right now, I don't know if a form can go to multiple people. It was a challenge to get an email to go to multiple people, so I'll just have to investigate that and report back.
And the automatic response, I haven't had a chance to follow up with him because he's been in training this week, but to find out if that automatic response would be able to happen once somebody sent the email to you.
So I think from the perspective of the recipient of a concern, here are my concerns. If we were to get that directly without it being filtered, I'm honestly not concerned about my individual email address being accessible to people. It's easy enough to find any of our addresses anyway, so I'm not concerned about that. I would be concerned, frankly, no matter how we get the information, about what we three then do with it, because that's, can we have a discussion online about, are we going to put this on the agenda? I think we need some guidance here about what we can do when we certainly can't discuss the substance
Right.
of the issue. That might be all that we can do. That might be enough. But then what if we say, no, I don't think it should go on the agenda? Then, there would need to be some discussion of why not, and maybe we would agree, and maybe we
Maybe
wouldn't.
that could be a regular agenda item, was kind of a review and discussion of concerns received by the board.
Mhm.
And then in the context of our meeting, and then we could collectively review those. Now, what happens if you get, hypothetically, 100 of them?
We'd have a very long meeting.
We'd have a very long meeting, and I don't know that we necessarily, we can cross that bridge when we get there. Some of them may be duplicates and that kind of thing. So, but having that as a regular agenda item, it might well be the case that in a given month, we don't have any.
So that could be perhaps another offshoot of public comment, really, or another way for individuals. Well, okay, so what if the individual submitting the concern would not want that concern to be aired in a public meeting? Is that a scenario that we need to think about?
Well, then what are they giving it to us for? I'd have to ask. What are you telling me for if you don't want it discussed in a public meeting?
So is there some way to indicate that on the contact form?
Maybe that's something that ought to be on the site, is to make sure that people, that any submission may be the topic of discussion in a public meeting. But quite honestly, I don't want a lot of anonymous
Oh,
BS. I want substantive concerns.
there would need to be a return email in order for this to be valid, correct? Would somebody be able to submit a form without, anonymously?
I know we can do that on our intranet. I'd have to ask whether that's possible on our public site.
No, I'm hoping that it's not, actually.
On
Because
our
I-
public site, at the moment, no, you cannot submit anonymously.
I mean, the way this is set up right now, it requires an email address for somebody to
Correct.
submit it. There you go. I'd want to keep that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and you're right, if somebody wants something to stay secret, then you don't submit it to a public body.
Or
Good
perhaps
talk.
if they have a confidentiality concern, knowing that Donna's posted there as the main contact, they could work with her, or the communications box at the front of the college doesn't require a name or phone number, so
Point.
that's another opportunity to be anonymous. And
I don't want anonymous. And speaking only for myself,
concern.
but I don't want anonymous.
So, which brings us to another point. Maybe we need to indicate that on the communication box.
Indicate what?
That complaints with contact, only complaints with contact information will be considered. And complaints will be, may be discussed at a public board meeting.
You mean put like a warning on
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that,
I like to think of it as a notice.
yeah. Yeah. I noticed that's, yeah, that's fine.
Can I just ask
Please.
the board, in terms of the shared email, do you still have concerns if you did reply that your personal contact information would be public? Is that still a concern? Marlene says no, but I thought I remembered Vince saying that he didn't want his,
I'd prefer not.
okay,
You know, and even on the, and again, this, I understand, needs to be investigated yet to see if it's feasible.
right.
But even on the email, whether it's the email or the form, what I ideally would like to see, if it's possible, is an auto reply that says, the board thanks you, that this may be will not be accepted if it's considered if it's anonymous, that it could be a topic of discussion in the public, meeting. And that's the only reply anybody should expect prior to the public meeting.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I will adjust this copy to reflect that request.
And let me be clear, that is only my opinion. I'd want to hear from my colleagues on that. But again, I think that our responses beyond the acknowledgement of the receipt and so forth need to occur in this forum.
May I have a clarification? So the email that we're struggling to have go to 3 people outside of the college, it's necessary that not go through Donna? Because that would definitely be an easier technology
Which would be easier?
to have, as all other communications are vetted, are going to Donna and she forwards them, to have that lmrb@sfcc.edu email go to Donna and then she forwards to the 3 of you.
That would be the easiest.
Yes,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
certainly. Should it be acceptable to the board to have that lmrb@sfcc.edu, as with the other ways of communicating with this board, go to you, and then you could forward to the 3 of board members?
Okay, so that way your personal email would not be,
Yeah, I think that the issue that I'm hearing is that it's not so much that our personal emails are visible or accessible, it's what happens with that. Would that create a tendency, and I think that we would certainly monitor ourselves, for us to then, what do you think about this? We just can't do that. Would that create a tendency for the individual submitting the issue to then, want to have individual communication with each of us. That's another problem.
That's a risk.
So
If we disclose our personal emails, that becomes a risk.
well, maybe I'm not understanding this right. Let me say it how I think I'm thinking of it. If there is the form is going to Donna, so let's set that aside. The labor management email address, you're saying it's much easier to have it go to Donna and Donna forward it.
Correct. In addition, it's difficult, I think, if not perhaps impossible, for us to create an automatic response that goes to 3 different emails that are outside the SFCC system. Whereas if it were to go to Donna, then I think the automatic reply would be possible. I don't know if Jeremy's here. That would be great. Okay. I'm in marketing. I'm not in IT, but I know that we have, Donna and I have been going back and forth to try to get the LMRB email to work the way we thought we understood that you wanted it to work, and it's been a challenge.
Here's the way
Security is a major issue here, so.
here's the way I think we want it to work, and you guys tell me if I'm saying this wrong. I think the email address, when someone emails using that email address, we want it to go to our 3 emails.
Right.
And when that happens, at that moment, the sender doesn't know our emails. It's just they're sending it to that LM board email address. And we then the 3 of us receive that email. The next step is if one of us hits reply all, the sender will now receive all our email addresses.
Exactly.
Okay? So that's we might have to just be careful about that, and that is okay. But I think that I would prefer that email go to the 3 of us versus Donna if it's technically possible, because I think there may be 2 things. One is Donna's doing enough, so she doesn't need more forwarding tasks. The second is that I think some folks in the community may want to deal direct with the board and may have concerns about going through Donna. So if it's possible, though.
May I just interject? Not going through Donna,
Right.
but going through any administrator in the
Exactly.
college.
Yeah, no, it's nothing against
Right.
Donna, but Donna.
I just want to be really clear about that.
That's right. And so if it's technically possible, the way I'm hoping it works is when someone sends an email to that email address, they can get an automatic reply that says, thank you for your email, that your concerns are being addressed, the board will discuss them. It may be an agenda item at the next meeting, pay attention to the next meeting date. We then just have to be careful not to reply all. We just need to reply among ourselves if we're discussing it. Because sometimes, I think some of these emails may be, hey, when's the next meeting? Okay, and that may be, we might send that to Donna and not just say, hey, Donna, let them know it's the 10th, or tell them to check the website. And some may be very serious concerns, and some may be things we want to add to the agenda, and I think that might be the more common thing. So I think those are technical questions we probably want to get answered by the next meeting, if not
Our
now.
chief information officer is on his way.
Yeah, okay, so that's, that makes sense.
This is the language we have for the form at the moment. When you press submit, this is what.
Okay. And something similar for the email. I would just
Jeremy, please join me at the table.
I would just add that I like the idea, I like the concept of having an alternative, because, we've been talking about it from our perspective, but I want to look at it from the user's perspective also. And there certainly may be a situation where, I don't want any administrator to know that I have this issue or concern.
This is Jeremy Lovato. He's our Chief Information Officer. I just want to bring him up to speed.
Okay.
So one of the things we've tried to create for the Labor Management Relations Board, we put in a request for an email that would go to the 3 board members directly. We have 2 concerns. One is, if it goes directly to them, does that mean that, will they only see LMRB, or will they see their email addresses? And the second concern is, can we do an automatic reply when someone submits via email that comes from the college system that says, thank you for your submission and some additional copy? If it's actually going through an sfcc.edu email address, but to private addresses.
So creating a distribution group, good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
Madam Chair and board members. So I'm assuming everyone has their own personal email address, which is currently used. Okay, and that's your form of communication for the Labor Management Relationship Board. Okay. Would you consider having an address, email address specifically for Labor Management Relationship Board?
That's what we submitted.
Are you talking about an individual email address?
Yes,
or a
an individual email address. We can, it may or may not be through sfcc.edu, so I'll follow up on the ticket. There will need to be a person record in Banner in order to have an SFCC email address. Yes.
That's me, the person on record in order to have it. But I don't get those emails. I'm just the administrator. So if one person drops out, I can say we need to add this person on, that kind of thing. But I do not get the emails that are sent to that address.
Okay.
So we put the request in with element RB at sfcc.edu, and it's supposed to go to these three board members.
That may
Right,
not
and
work
we've
out.
gotten that.
There's some changes.
Rick has done that part of it, but what he says is if these board members reply, that their individual email address will show on the reply, and that's what they were trying to get away from, was revealing their individual
Got it.
email addresses.
So there's no way around that, unfortunately.
Okay.
So hence my question, if you would consider using a second email address that would be created specifically for this purpose, that would be that you'd be replying to.
Mm-hmm.
It takes some functionality of connecting these email accounts to your mail application on your computer or on your phone and knowing what you're replying from as you reply from your phone. So it takes that secondary awareness of what email account you're replying from. But we can certainly create a distribution group that sends to the three of you. When you're replying, if you're not selecting this newly created email, it is going to be your personal email address, unfortunately. There's not really a way around that.
So would an SFCC email address then be automatically forwarded to our personal or business email address, or would there be another portal that we would have, or another platform that we would have to engage with to pick up our emails?
So it could automatically be forwarded to your personal email address.
Mm-hmm.
However, most mail applications, whether on a mobile phone or a computer, whether it be Outlook or Mac Mail, if you're going to reply from that forward, it's still going to come from
your personal
email address. So it would be an entirely different system, domain, or whatever kind of mail account system that you would need to be replying from. So if we're looking to avoid your own personal email address coming through and being, I'm guessing there's some kind of discovery concerns or just not wanting to have your personal email be available for any kind of discovery or just off the record, I guess is pretty.
I mean, I don't think we're that concerned about the reply, and I don't think we're going to be replying often, if at all. So it sounds like on the sending end of things, it's possible to have this email that's been set up go to three people.
Yes.
It's possible to get an auto reply whenever you send to that email address with certain copy that says thank you for sending an email to this address.
Yes. Yes.
So that does it for us. Donna's not getting it in that instance, which is good. So I think then it's just incumbent upon us to know that it's coming, and we should not reply all. If we reply all, then it's going to the sender automatically. And I think we can probably handle that. And if there's ever an instance, the way I feel about it is if there's ever an instance that that person who's sending needs to get a response, it can never come, or it shouldn't come from any one of us individually anyway. It probably needs to come from Donna or someone else. or attorney or whoever, and then we just forward it to whoever we want and say this, send this email to this person, and then we're kind of out of it. Does that make sense?
I think it does, and I think the likelihood of that happening is slim because we cannot have substantive discussions
Correct.
outside of this meeting. So, if somebody is requesting a response, the response might be, we cannot have substantive discussions.
But it could be, hey, who's the lawyer for the board, or hey, who's the union representative, and those kind of simple. We do want to. I mean, we don't want to be dealing with that all the time, but the answers are out there. We want to make it user friendly.
We want to be responsive.
If we can get that, if that's the part that Donna has to help out with because that's her role, then that probably works. So it seems like this tech fix is probably what.
Okay,
what
and if
we-
you would like to draft up the language on what that auto reply would look like, or
Yeah.
whoever, you got it? Okay, so we'll get that in place. Obviously, if it is going through the SFCC Exchange email system, it is subject to any IPRA requests or any kind of discovery that's available to the public, so I'm sure you're aware of that, but you'd have to produce any of that.
Can I? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm assuming it'd be resident on your server, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The incoming emails. Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a staff to respond to IPRA requests. You guys are going to have to respond to them
That's our
for us.
responsibility. Yeah, that's our policy.
All right.
Just so you know, we would be responding to those requests, obviously.
Yeah.
So the contact section of our webpage then would add a couple of bullets. One might be submit a question or concern directly to the LMRB and give our web address or a web link to the SFCC address. And then we might want to add only questions and concerns with contact information will receive a response. Yeah.
Would be
Just
considered.
One recommendation, since this is on here, would you be opposed to, it looks like, submit a question, concern online, would you be opposed to a form being created? So what
There
is
is
it?
one.
It's right there, yeah.
Yeah.
That goes to Donna. The concern is in some instances, an individual might want to communicate directly with the board without a
Using the
filter
form.
of going through Donna. So this one is going to
Well,
Donna.
so something similar then, that goes directly, that's distributed to the three of you, so it's just another form directly to the
Oh, I
Labor
see.
Relationships Management
Just like
Board
this.
instead of an email address.
Yeah.
So they fill this out, and then it just gets sent to the three of you. And we could put some context or language here where we don't have to worry about a auto reply. There's already some kind of disclosure on the bottom saying whatever language you want.
That's probably-
I would advise that approach.
So here's a question then. Do we need the form going to Donna?
I think not.
Or is that redundant?
I think it's redundant.
Yeah, that was my initial question was, do we
Both.
need two? We probably just need one form that says submit questions, comments, or concerns to the board, and there's the form, and the form goes
To the three of you.
direct to the board.
Yes.
And then the form, since it would be
Has an
this
email
kind of form,
address.
would require an email address, so that solves that, the anonymity
apply all to it,
question,
yeah.
right? Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
All right, so then what we'll do is we'll change this form to get distributed to your three personal email addresses. All right, great,
Can I ask one more question?
absolutely.
So this is the additional communication piece I wanted to raise here. And I'm showing you how little I know about technology with this question, but bear with me. I don't know if it's a listserv or an RSS feed or something. I'm wondering is there a way to set up an email group that folks in the community can join that says, I want to be notified about what's going on at the board, so that when public agendas, meeting notices, dates get published with the New Mexican and on the website and all the media boards around the school, that it's also like an email blast that goes out to everyone who decided to sign up.
So an opt-in communication for whatever communications the board wants to distribute.
Exactly.
So certainly there's tools for that. That would be more down marketing and public relations and Todd's area. I'm happy to consult with him, and that wasn't him because I just spoke his name and he walked. But so I could go talk with, so yes, we can, if you want to make that into a formal, is that a formal request, or?
Well, if you guys are okay with that.
No, I actually like that.
When I was reading through the rules and understanding how this is going, it does require an element of activism on the part of people who care about what's going on here. And if all they have to do is put their email in, then they'll know what's going on. They don't
Just so long as it has an unsubscribe
exactly.
opportunity as
Exactly.
well.
That's why I thought it was a list. I think it's a listserv, but I'm not totally sure.
So we might have some groupies,
Yes, yes,
labor management.
that's
groupies.
right. People just want to know what's going on. Yeah.
Oh, right. So, Laura, will you take that one to Todd, and I'll follow up on that discussion? I don't know what the approval process is internally on the effort on that, but we're happy to help out any way we can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Just in case there's another technical side to the page, shall we complete
Please.
review?
Let's.
So all the communications options are up there. We'll add the distribution list, so that's one more way of getting information. And so then we added these resources.
I would just suggest, and I'm probably splitting hairs, but the relevant act for us is the New Mexico Public Relations Act.
Can you back up, Marshall?
You're shaking your head?
I'm only shaking my head, Chair, just to state that the act is actually the resolution that the college passed, is what governs this meeting.
Oh, I'm not saying that it does not.
We have the act the resolution posted above. It was just mentioned that some people may not be familiar with some of the background of what's going on here.
Right.
But we can take down any ones that are not relevant. Should we remove that first one?
So the National Labor Relations Act is interesting historically. It certainly informs PIBA, but it's not a reference point for folks who might have a question about the role of a New Mexico local labor relations board.
Confusing to
So,
have it up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my thinking.
I'd agree.
What do you think?
I agree.
Okay.
We'll take it down, thanks. Is this the correct one?
No,
That's the website.
board
Yeah.
site. That's,
Yeah, but that has the language.
okay.
So we keep that one?
Is there another format that you think
No.
for the
That's fine.
statutory format would be? Okay.
I mean, it's all there. Does that appear anywhere else on the college's website? The IPRA guide?
I haven't memorized our IPRA page. We usually get requests directly to our department, so I'd have to research that.
I think that's a requirement.
Does it?
Any public body has to have a.
Oh, no, absolutely. I understand
Page on
that.
our site.
But I was just wondering if it's elsewhere on this college's site, does it?
No, I
need
think
to
it
be-
is.
I think it's on our marketing and public
Well,
relations,
then does it need to be on ours?
but we could just link to,
Either way, yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, we're talking about not confusing people, or, because then one might wonder why we don't have anything on open meetings.
Good point.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that may be overkill to have that too. If someone wants to request public records related to this board, they go, well, do we want them to go to the school? I mean, it should be an independent.
Is there any harm in having a link to open meetings and IPRA on our site?
No, I think if we're going to have one, we ought to have both.
Yeah, that's a good point. Justin, do you agree?
I agree.
Okay.
I'd probably lean to both rather than none.
Okay, so could we have a link to open
Absolutely.
meetings as well? Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. So a question that I have is, how is the Labor Board page searchable on the college site? When I was plugging in search terms, the page wasn't live, so I didn't get anywhere, obviously. Is
I'm
it
going to ask Todd Lovato, our Director of Marketing and Public Relations. He's much more web savvy than I am. I'm a writer.
You did a great job.
Thank you so.
Really
Thank you
super.
very much, Laura.
Thank you.
Hi,
Good morning, Todd.
good morning. Thank you. And well, our search function, now that the pages are live, should be functional. But also, the community college website has a very high weight from Google in terms of its search engine optimization, because we're a longstanding EDU institution. So I might put myself on the spot here, Marshall, but if you wanted to open a new tab and just Google labor relations SFCC or something loosely around that, we can see how optimized our search engine results are. So,
Number one.
yeah, so just as a kind of broader thing, the majority of our traffic on the website as a whole comes from Google. It's what's known as organic search traffic. That goes for this page as well. So a lot of the times a request is like, hey, can we put our thing on the homepage? But the reality is that people don't find content on our website very much through that homepage. So if you're coming up effectively through Google, that's a big one. And then if we want to just do another test, Marshall, if you don't mind driving on back to our college page, the little search glass on the top right, you want to just put in labor. Try just labor.
I put in labor management, and it was the first thing that came up.
Okay. So everything, it seems to be, and
Third.
so there's third on a pretty broad term. So I imagine if you were to search, with more terms, and that's good to hear that that's working. So I hope that answers your question on
It
that.
does. It does. Thank you. When did
Todd,
you check
perhaps-
that out, Vince? Did you check that out within the last couple days?
Just did it.
Okay. Thank you.
The meetings through the website.
Okay, is that okay if I speak to the distribution list for a minute?
Please.
I'm just kind of rapid fire absorbing that question, but what we can do is create a form on this page that someone could fill out, and then a key person from this group would get a notification that this person has opted in to receive a distribution. I guess the next step to that is what does that look like? So do you want to receive updates from the Labor Relations Board? ? Yes. Email, submit. At that point, a message will go to whoever we want it to via email.
So would that be an extra step then that Donna would need to take on?
Is there no way to, I know people have to opt in, is there no way to just make it automatic? Like, we don't care who signs up. We just want them to be able to sign up so that once they've signed up, they're on the receiving end of whatever blast we decide is appropriate to do. Agenda, upcoming meetings, just a notice like that.
Right now, though, we don't send out the agenda as a blast. It's sent out, it's available on the website. So I'd be reluctant, I think, to have an additional step that would be on Donna's shoulders.
I guess I envisioned at least any time we do the public notice, like the meetings coming up, that's what goes in the blast. And then if there's anything else we decide would be important to be included in the blast, whether it's an agenda. I mean, the agenda item, I don't think, agendas we don't need to do, because if we're announcing a public meeting, it will let people know, hey, the meeting's coming up, and anyone who cares will go on the website and figure out what's on the agenda. I can't think right now of anything else, but at least the public meeting notice would go there, I guess.
Maybe if a meeting is canceled.
Yeah.
That could be significant.
Yeah, I just, I think that there may be times when we could use that kind of rapid communication. So to your point, Todd, does there have to be that step where someone on the receiving end has to okay someone joining? Because we don't really care.
No, the answer is no. You don't need to. What would essentially happen is you're just building a little database of emails
Right.
that you want to have handy when you're ready to send out information. You can get really deep into this stuff if you wanted to create a MailChimp account and send out, highly designed newsletters and
We're not there yet.
distribute to your people. But I would say if the goal is, well, there's another question. If your primary stakeholders or recipients of this information are, do you see those as being a lot external from the college? And the reason I'm asking that is because we also have just communication channels to all faculty, all staff, all students. We can create distribution lists in that way. So we're kind of working within the systems that we're pretty comfortable working within. So it's another way to approach that.
What was your intention when you conceived this?
Yeah, I may have opened up a Pandora's box. I didn't mean to. I think that, I guess I don't necessarily think that wide a distribution is necessary. What I envisioned was for people out there who know that this board exists and who want to be kept up to date as to when the meeting is, they don't have to remember, I got to go check the website to figure out if a meeting's happening.
Right.
And this way, just like seeing it in the newspaper, just like seeing it on the media boards outside, they have a notice in their email that, hey, there's a meeting coming up, and I can make time to get there.
And Justin, you were thinking you wanted to see that on an opt-in basis.
Yes. So someone out there in the world who keeps forgetting to come to the meetings and wants to say something could go on the website, see the Contact Us page, say, hey, do you want to receive board updates? Yes. Click in. And then anytime our public notice goes out, they get an email that says, public meeting coming up December 12th. And then with the required language on what we're posting publicly. And then that's kind of it. So we don't need every faculty. I don't think every faculty, every student has to automatically get that, because we're going to be overburdening people with stuff in their inbox. But it's just kind of a way to opt in to get that information if they want to. I mean, I think we would kind of see how it would work, but...
And there could be a community member who is concerned about labor relations at the college.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to think of apply some Occam's razor to this, because I want and hear what you're saying, and I think we can work on a way to make it as easy as possible. I think probably a good way to start would be an opt-in. A really easy way would be would you like to receive newsletters? And they can say yes, submit, and that notification would go to Donna, so in partnership with Donna, we'll be compiling basically a spreadsheet of emails when you feel it's important for those messages to go out. We just have to send an email, make sure that those emails are included in the, to line. That becomes who we send those out. In terms of building more automated processes around those things, that might take a little bit more time to discuss, how to actually do that. But that's kind of would be the most straightforward way. Essentially you need somebody to shepherd that process, the communications process, and so if it's Donna, that's a possibility. But that's kind of the key, and we have the communication tools to do that. But that would be the simplest way, without getting into like the mail, chimps and the e-distribution type things.
I don't think that we're envisioning a newsletter. And I'd like to check with Donna and see if you have any thoughts, or maybe it would be a good idea, Todd, for you to give this some thought in communication with Donna and see what would be manageable, because we certainly want to be sensitive to, that one more thing that has to be done, on a particular day on the calendar, no matter how organized a person is, can be burdensome. And we want to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
So can we ask that perhaps you have some dialogue and come back to us next month?
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Is that agreeable?
Yeah, and Donna specifically, what I would say is, right now, my only thought is this distribution list is another way to distribute the public notices that you've been distributing. So it does add another item. You're in the newspaper, you're on the media boards, you're out there. It's just it is one more thing you'd have to do. So I think it's wise to see if this is okay. But that's it at this point. That's the only use I see for this at this point. And like Marlene said, if we have a December 12th meeting and we're canceling it because it's snowing outside, it's just another way we could let everyone know it's not happening. So that's kind of the parameters. If talk about it, and then we'll maybe get it at the next meeting.
To maximize transparency, we don't want to burden anybody.
For sure.
So we'll have to balance that. So we'll hear from you next month.
That's right. And as automated as it could be, where it reduces anything Donna has to do, even in terms of compiling it. So if it were just some kind of automatic system where you opt in and it's creating a list internally for you, where Donna doesn't know who's on the list, we don't even know who's on the list, it's just people who opt in, that's preferable, at least in my view.
Yeah, that sounds good, and I'll kind of suss that out a bit
Okay.
for the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, just one more consideration of that, if I may. We need to pick an email address to send it from. We're sensitive as to what emails are sent from the SFCC domain out to the public, so we are not marked as spam and blacklisted for any specific domains. So that would be part of that situation.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for being mindful of the nuance.
Thank you all.
Okay, do we have any other discussion regarding item 4? Our website and other channels of communication.
Nope.
Okay?
Thank
All
you.
right, Laura, thank you so much.
Thanks.
And moving on to non-consent action items. Item A, approval of minutes from 9/12/17. Okay. I have 3 copies of the 10:10 minutes and didn't print out a copy of the September minutes. Yes, I did. Okay. There they are. All right, so stretching our long-term memory here. Just a comment about the minutes, and I'd appreciate my colleagues' thoughts about this. These really are transcripts. And is that okay? I mean, the requirements for minutes are, very much more of an outline than what we have in front of us. Is that okay? Is there a reason to prefer the kind of board minutes that are typical rather than a transcript? I mean, just, motions made and passed and kind of that basic, or do we want to continue with the transcript? Or is there some reason to do that?
Yeah, certainly.
Since this was the beginning of you guys setting up, that's why I did more of a transcript. The minutes that I do for the governing board are much more what you're describing, an outline of the high points and then whatever decision is made. And I was going to begin to transition to that. I just felt like you guys talked about so many important issues about communication, email communication, what were open meeting act, violations or possible violations, tiptoeing up to that point. So I just felt like there was all that kind of discussion that was really important, but I am certainly willing to, to go to do more of the same kind of minutes that I do for the governing board, which is just an outline and just hitting the high points and your decisions. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Answers my question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, September 12th, any additions or corrections?
Nope.
Nope.
Do we have a motion to approve the
Also
minutes of
moved.
September 12th? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. These minutes are approved. The minutes of October 10th. Any additions or corrections?
I move to approve.
Madam Chair, I do have one. It's minor. Now I need to find it. Bear with me. It's on page 3. It's second from the bottom. It's attributed to me. It says if I could focus that comment in the board, it should read broad context.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Just showing off that I read them.
Very
So noted. And can we make that correction?
So subject to that correction, I'll move that we approve the minutes of 10/10/17.
Okay. And all in favor to pass minutes as corrected?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Item C, our final piece of business for today. And, honestly, my suggestion would be, my thought would be that we might want to defer this item until council is present.
My understanding is council wrote this,
I know.
so I think we probably do need to do.
I think it might be worth, just, if I may, just reviewing, it's kind of fill in the blanks. And unless there's something, a blank that's controversial, I think we could proceed to fill in the blanks and adopt it.
Okay, willing?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that. So shall we take it paragraph by paragraph?
Sure.
Okay. Would you like to read aloud?
Oh, I'd be happy to. And I'm just going to address the ones where there's fill in the blanks, assuming we've read this.
Yes.
All right, whereas the Santa Fe Community College Labor Relations Board, or Management Relations Board, SFC LMRB, met in regular session at the Santa Fe Community College on, insert date, today's date, at 9 a.m., as required by law, and then you go down further to paragraph 1 under now, therefore, be it resolved that the SFCC LMRB, that, number 1, all meetings shall be held at, I don't know the degree of specificity, I would say at the Santa Fe Community College at 9 a.m. or as indicated in the meeting notice.
Yep.
Next paragraph, 2, regular meetings of the LMRB shall be held in accordance with the notice published pursuant to this resolution and the OMA. A proposed agenda will be available at least 72 hours prior to the meeting from the office of the Santa Fe Community College president, whose office is located at, I think Santa Fe, New Mexico would be sufficient. Go on to the next page, paragraph 5, for the purposes of regular meetings described in paragraph 2 of this resolution, notice requirements are met if the notice of the date, time, place, and agenda is placed in the Santa Fe, New Mexican, fax to local radio station. Do we do that?
I haven't been doing that. I can send it easily to KSFR, which is the radio station on campus.
Yeah, let's do that. You guys agree?
Yes.
And posted in the following locations at SFCC and within the city of Santa Fe. I don't know why we need to post within the city of Santa Fe. I think
Because
that
it's in
could,
the New Mexican.
yeah, I think that could be deleted.
Is that a requirement of the Open Meetings Act?
I don't believe so.
We'll find out, but I think that's fine to take.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's not in the Open Meetings Act for the governing board for the college.
Okay.
okay. And then, Donna, the locations at SFCC would include, and you have
There,
those,
yes,
the bulletin boards,
right.
the website. All right, so because, go ahead.
Donna, what would be consistent with the governing board postings?
What I do with the governing board is I place a notice in the New Mexican 10 days ahead of the meeting so that it is published 10 days ahead of the meeting. Then I post it at the main information desk. I post it on either sides of the board room. There's another bulletin board down at the by the culinary where I post it, and then I take it down to the HR department and post it there. And then it's put on the website. So those are the usual.
But you don't do the radio station, right?
I don't normally do the radio
No, that's
station.
fine. What I would like to suggest, subject to my colleagues' input, is that what we articulate in that paragraph is what you currently do for the governing board, so that you're not having competing
Right.
methods of
Okay.
dissemination,
Okay.
and that we just articulate it there and be done with it,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
Would you agree, Justin?
Yes. Yeah, Justin?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, number 6. For the purposes of special meetings and emergency meetings described in paragraph 3 and 4 of this resolution, notice requirements shall be met by posting notice of the date, time, place, and agenda at, golly, same thing, right?
Again, the same thing for special meetings. The requirement is 3 days before, that it's in the newspaper 3 days before the meeting. So and then I post in all the other places exactly the same.
And of course, this is again asking to specify the locations, which to me is redundant would be redundant to 5. I would, it says that the SFCC LMRB executive assistant shall provide a telephone or facsimile notice to those broadcast stations licensed by the FCC and newspapers of general circulation that have a written request for public notice of meetings. Again, going back to the radios and stuff, if it's not something you currently
It's
do,
not
I
what
don't,
currently
then I would
do.
recommend that we delete that and just stick with what we're consistently doing. And that's all the fill-ins, other than for us to fill in the date of adoption and signatures.
So I'd like to see the final format
Yeah.
of this. Can we do that at the next meeting and sign off on it then? Would that be agreeable, Justin?
Yes.
I agree.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you. That gets us where we need to be in terms of the of Open Meetings Act compliance. Okay. Any other issues?
Madam Chair, I do have one thing, and I hope I'm not out of line with this, but I notice a new face in the room that I don't think any of us are familiar with necessarily. But my understanding is that the new president has joined us.
Yes, hello.
I'd like to welcome you.
Good morning, thank you so much. Cecilia
Welcome.
Marcus, and I started 3 days ago, and I'm still here.
Well, welcome. That's great.
Welcome. Thank you so much for stepping in and introducing yourself.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. And if we can,
Working with you in any way that I can assist.
and
Excellent.
similarly, if we can be a resource to you and to harmonious relations between labor and management, we are at your service.
Very much. Appreciate that.
Okay. Any further items, issues, observations?
Next meeting?
Next meeting, December 2nd.
What was it? What did we say?
Second Friday.
Second Friday.
Friday?
Be December 8th.
8, 9, 10, 11. That's right. Are we good on December 8th?
Yep.
I hope so. Okay.
December 8th at 9?
December 8th, 9 a.m., same place?
Okay.
Okay.
Then I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, is it seconded? And all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. Thank you so much. Until next time.